The attack on a joint patrol near Palmyra in central Syria marks a dangerous turning point in a conflict that never truly ended, only went quiet. What happened in mid-December 2025 is not just another ambush in the Syrian desert. It is a calculated signal sent into one of the most fragile military ecosystems in the world. A US-linked patrol, operating in coordination with local forces, was struck in a zone that sits at the crossroads of American presence, Iranian influence, Russian oversight, and Syrian sovereignty claims. When violence erupts in such a location, it is never accidental. And it is never local. Palmyra is not just symbolic because of its ancient ruins. Strategically, it sits between eastern Syria, the Iraqi border corridors, and key supply routes used by multiple armed actors. Any movement there is closely watched. The presence of American-affiliated forces in that zone has long been tolerated rather than accepted, creating a tense equilibrium maintained by deterrence, not consent. The December attack shattered that balance. It exposed how thin the line is between containment and escalation, and how easily Syria can slide back into a multi-layered confrontation. The immediate question is simple: who benefits? The answer is far more complex. The Syrian battlefield today is fragmented into zones of influence, each governed by a different set of rules. The United States maintains a limited but strategically significant footprint aimed at counterterrorism, intelligence gathering, and blocking rival powers from fully consolidating control. Iran uses Syria as a forward operating space to project power toward the Mediterranean and Israel. Russia positions itself as the ultimate arbiter, maintaining military leverage while avoiding full-scale confrontation. Within this environment, attacks like the one near Palmyra function as strategic probes. For Washington, the incident presents a dilemma: respond too forcefully, and the United States risks being dragged deeper into a conflict it has tried to manage at arm's length for years. Respond too weakly, and it invites further attacks, signaling vulnerability to militias and state-backed actors who thrive in ambiguity. The U.S. posture in Syria has always relied on deterrence without escalation. That model only works as long as adversaries believe red lines are real. The Palmyra attack directly tests that belief. From the perspective of Iran-aligned groups, the message is equally clear: American presence in Syria remains contested, and pressure can be applied without triggering immediate retaliation. These groups understand the limits of U.S. engagement and exploit the gray zone between war and peace. A calibrated strike enough to cause casualties, not enough to provoke full retaliation, is a classic strategy designed to slowly erode an opponent's resolve over time. Such pressure campaigns can be more effective than open confrontation. Russia's role is more subtle but no less important. Moscow benefits from positioning itself as the indispensable power broker. Every spike in violence reinforces the argument that stability in Syria requires Russian oversight. At the same time, Russia has little interest in seeing American forces fully entrenched or Iranian proxies completely in check. A controlled level of instability keeps all sides dependent on negotiation and restraint. Whether Moscow directly influences such incidents or merely tolerates them, the outcome serves its broader strategic narrative. Regionally, the implications extend far beyond Syria. Any attack on U.S.-linked forces reverberates across Iraq, Jordan, and the eastern Mediterranean. Supply routes, intelligence cooperation, and force protection postures all come under review. Allies begin recalculating risks. Militias reassess thresholds. Even Israel, watching closely from the south, factors such developments into its own security planning. In the Middle East, no battlefield is isolated. A spark in the desert can alter calculations hundreds of kilometers away. There is also a political dimension that cannot be ignored. In Washington, Syria rarely dominates headlines, but incidents involving American casualties quickly revive dormant debates. Why are U.S. forces still there? What is the endgame? How much risk is acceptable for an open-ended mission? These questions resurface every time violence breaks through the illusion of containment. Adversaries understand this domestic pressure and often time their actions accordingly. The danger lies not in one attack, but in repetition. If December 2025 marks the beginning of a new cycle of targeted strikes, the risk of miscalculation rises sharply. One wrong response, one misinterpreted signal, and escalation becomes difficult to control. History shows that prolonged low-intensity pressure campaigns often end not with negotiation, but with sudden, disproportionate retaliation. Syria has seen this pattern before. Strategically, the attack highlights a broader shift in modern conflict. Power is no longer contested primarily through large-scale offensives, but through persistent friction. Small units, drones, roadside attacks, and deniable actors now shape outcomes more effectively than tanks and airstrikes. This favors actors who are patient, adaptive, and willing to operate in legal and political gray zones for traditional militaries. This environment is deeply challenging. Looking ahead, several scenarios emerge. The first is managed escalation, increased force protection, limited retaliatory strikes, and intensified diplomatic backchannels to restore deterrence. The second is gradual withdrawal, reducing exposure to avoid further casualties at the cost of strategic influence. The third, and most dangerous, is a spiral of action and reaction that pulls additional actors into the conflict, transforming a localized incident into a regional crisis. What makes the Palmyra attack particularly significant is its timing. It comes at a moment when global attention is fragmented. Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific, energy security, and domestic political shifts all compete for priority. In such moments, peripheral theaters become more volatile, not less. Actors test boundaries precisely because they believe focus is elsewhere. In the end, this incident is a reminder that Syria remains one of the world's most unstable fault lines. The war may have faded from daily headlines, but the underlying conflict architecture is intact. Foreign forces remain, rival agendas overlap, and the mechanisms for escalation are firmly in place. December 2025 did not create a new crisis. It revealed how close the region already was to one. The question now is not whether Syria will flare again, but how far the next escalation will go and whether the world is paying enough attention to stop it before the cost becomes unavoidable.